Welcome back to the deep dive, everyone.
Hey, really glad to be here for this one.
Yeah, so today we are officially on episode 3 in our ongoing series, diving into the book The Obstacle is the Way.
Which has been such a great series so far,
You
honestly.
know, it really has. And, well, to kick things off today, I want you to just imagine a scenario.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine you're finally stepping out of your comfort zone, right?
Yep.
You're aiming high.
A great feeling.
Exactly. You finally pull the trigger, you launch that major project, or, I don't know, take that massive financial or creative risk,
Yeah,
and you feel genuinely good about it.
right. You've got that momentum
You
going.
do. And then out of absolutely nowhere, a catastrophic, completely unexpected problem just drops right into your lap.
Just completely derails your entire plan.
Yes, it threatens to ruin everything.
Right.
And when that happens, when we are just profoundly shaken by a sudden crisis like that, our most common instinct is not to lean into it.
Oh, definitely not.
Right. Our instinct is to just flee. I mean, we try to medicate the bad feelings away.
We really do.
We bury ourselves in busy work, or we just numb out on our screens. Basically, doing anything at all to avoid sitting with the intense discomfort of that sudden obstacle.
Yeah, anything to avoid the reality of it.
Exactly. So our mission for this deep dive today is to answer one really critical question.
Which is,
How do we biologically and psychologically transform a catastrophic surprise into a strategic advantage?
well, I think it is essential to first recognize that that urge to run away you just mentioned.
Yeah.
That is a deeply wired biological response. It is not a personal failing at all.
Right. It's just human nature.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, when you aim high, you create momentum, and the statistical inevitability of that friction means that surprises are just guaranteed to happen.
Basically Murphy's Law. Right.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah.
But the actual danger there isn't the surprise itself.
It's not.
No, the surprise is honestly just neutral data. The true danger is the physiological cascade of stress that actually follows it.
Okay. The stress cascade.
Right, because that puts us at risk for much, much worse outcomes. Like when we let external circumstances or maybe aggressive competitors trigger our fight or flight response, our brain is just completely flooded with cortisol.
The stress hormone.
Exactly. And at that exact moment, we literally lose access to our higher level reasoning
Wow. Just instantly.
instantly. And so we end up making rushed, panicked decisions on their terms rather than our own.
That makes so much sense. We get intimidated and just react blindly.
Yes, and this really brings us to the core transformative concept of this material. The big idea here,
Let's hear it.
it explains exactly why we lose our footing in the first place. Basically, we operate under the false belief that the event itself is the problem.
Wait, but it is the problem, isn't it?
Well, we think the lost contract or the sudden market crash or the scathing review is the source of our misery.
Right, because those things are terrible.
But neurologically speaking, there is the raw event, and then there is the subjective story we construct about what that event actually means. Oh, okay. Event versus story.
Exactly. Things just happen. There is absolutely no inherent good or bad without us there to interpret it.
So we're kind of doing it to ourselves.
We are entirely complicit in the creation or the destruction of every single one of our obstacles.
Yeah.
And we do it through our perception.
Okay, let's unpack this because, I mean, this is a massive shift in perspective.
It definitely is.
And I want to push back on it right here just a little bit.
Sure, go for it.
Because I hear you saying it's about control, but let's be real for a second. When your business is bleeding money,
Right.
or say a competitor is actively trying to run you into the ground, standing there and trying to reframe the story, it feels you are just lying to yourself.
I can see why it feels that way, yeah.
Right. Like it basically borders on toxic positivity. How does a person realistically bridge the gap between experiencing pure visceral panic and actually believing this new positive narrative you were talking about?
That's a really fair question.
Are we just supposed to smile at a total disaster and pretend it is a gift? No. That is exactly the trap most people fall into, and it is a really vital distinction we need to make here.
Okay, good. Because smiling through a crisis sounds crazy.
Right, no, you are absolutely not supposed to smile and pretend. This has nothing to do with blind optimism.
Or Toxic positivity.
Exactly. No toxic positivity. Because toxic positivity is passive.
Passive, how so?
It relies on delusion. It's like telling yourself, everything happens for a reason while the ship is literally sinking.
Right, ignoring the water rushing in.
Exactly. What we are talking about here is active cognitive override. It is about recognizing your own absolute, undeniable agency in the situation.
So taking back control of the steering wheel.
Yes. What is genuinely fascinating from a psychological standpoint is that nobody else is actually capable of deciding how a stimulus affects your internal state.
Wow. Nobody else can do that.
Nobody. Your brain is essentially a prediction machine. So when a competitor attacks, your prediction fails. Your amygdala sounds the alarm, and your mind might just scream at you that this is the end of your entire career.
And that's that cortisol flood you mentioned earlier.
Exactly. But, and this is the key, you do not have to agree with your own initial neural impulses.
Really? You can just disagree with your own brain.
You hold the executive power. Via your prefrontal cortex, you decide if you will brake or if you will resist.
Oh, that's powerful.
Right. Perception isn't just looking at the glass half full. It's realizing that a fire in your building isn't just a disaster.
What else could it be?
It is the exact real-world mechanism that tests if your sprinkler system actually works.
Oh, wow.
Right. A massive mistake or a vicious attack can instantly be recategorized. It becomes high-fidelity training.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me, because if we follow that exact logic,
Yeah.
the power of perception cannot actually be obstructed by any outside force.
Not at all.
Like, your competitor can attack your margins, they can steal your clients, but they literally do not have the neurological access to stop you from perceiving their attack as a stress test for your business model.
Exactly. They don't have the keys to your brain.
Right? You know the old saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure?
Very true.
That power to choose how you see it can only be relinquished. You literally have to actively hand over the keys to your own mind.
That is a perfect way to put it. You have to give up the power.
But practically speaking, though, how do people who live in constant high-stakes environments actually do this?
Like who?
I'm thinking about ER doctors, right? Or fighter pilots, or first responders.
Oh, right. The highest stakes imaginable.
Yeah, they deal with catastrophic surprises constantly, and they don't seem to be, wrestling with the story of the event while a patient is literally coding on the table.
No, they definitely aren't. And the reason they don't wrestle with it in the moment is because they have systematically trained their perception long before the event ever occurs.
Training it beforehand, like drills.
Exactly. Think about an astronaut.
Okay, an
They
astronaut.
spend thousands of hours in a simulator experiencing just every conceivable catastrophic failure.
Right. Simulating engines blowing out, oxygen failing, everything.
Everything. So when the alarm actually goes off in the vacuum of space, it is not interpreted as a sudden, terrifying surprise.
It's just a drill come to life.
Right. It is interpreted as a recognized anomaly, one that just requires a specific checklist to be executed.
Right, it's brilliant.
They have completely stripped the emotional story of impending doom away from the raw event of a flashing red light.
So the red light doesn't mean we are all going to die. It just means turn to page 4 of the manual.
Exactly. And this connects directly to the absolute necessity of steadying your nerves.
Because if you panic, you can't read the manual.
Right. When you refuse to relinquish that power of perception, you create the cognitive space required to actually act.
Makes sense.
Because in moments of extreme pressure, raw talent is completely useless.
Like totally useless.
Totally. You could be the most skilled, intelligent, highly trained professional in your entire field. But if you are panicked, if your amygdala has completely hijacked your brain, you literally cannot access those skills.
Because the higher level problem solving just shuts down.
It shuts down completely. The two attributes that must precede the opportunity to deploy any other skill are grace and poise.
Grace and poise.
Yes. Without them, your immense talent just remains locked behind a thick wall of cortisol.
And I think we need to be really, really clear about what we mean by nerve in this context.
Definitely.
Because nerve isn't about feeling perfectly relaxed.
No, not at all.
Right? It is not about sitting there with a super low resting heart rate, feeling totally zen while your life's work is actively under threat.
That's a huge misconception.
Exactly. Nerve is a matter of profound defiance and
Yeah.
active control.
Yes.
Defiance, it is feeling the fear, right? Feeling that massive dump of adrenaline in your bloodstream and making the conscious executive decision that you will not let that chemical reaction dictate your physical actions.
Exactly right. Nerve is the bridge between a pure biological reaction and a strategic action.
I love that. A bridge to action.
Defiance and acceptance actually blend perfectly here into one unshakable principle.
How so?
Well, you accept the brutal reality of the situation.
Like the facts.
Right. The market has crashed, the contract is gone, the obstacle is massive, and it is very real. You accept that.
Okay, so where does defiance come in?
You absolutely defy the subjective narrative that it has to destroy you. You defy the story that tells you have no options, because logically speaking, there is always a countermove, a pivot, or an escape.
There's always a next move on the board.
Always. Let me underscore that, because it is literally the linchpin of resilience. There is always a countermove.
Even when it feels impossible.
Even then. It might be painful, it might require a massive restructuring of your life or your business, but the pathway exists.
Right.
Which means, objectively, there is never a valid strategic reason to give in to panic.
Because panic doesn't help.
It doesn't serve a function at all. It only obscures the countermove.
So, what does this all actually mean for the listener?
How to apply it, you mean?
Exactly. How do we take this incredibly powerful, albeit kind of abstract philosophy, and actually use it when the fire alarm goes off?
Right, in the real world.
Yeah. If the person listening to this right now wakes up tomorrow morning, checks their email, and faces a massive, unexpected crisis, how do they practically train this grace and poise in real time?
That's the million-dollar question.
We know the what's is to stay calm, but what is the actual how? What's the micro habit?
Okay, here is the highly specific psychological action plan. It's a habit you can deploy the very second the stressor hits.
I'm ready.
When you face that sudden crisis tomorrow, the absolute first thing you must do is actively, ruthlessly separate the raw objective event from the emotional story you are attaching to it.
Give me an example of that.
Okay, so you look at the facts and you strip away every single adjective.
No adjective.
Right. So, our biggest client unexpectedly left, and we are going to go bankrupt, and I am a massive failure.
A very common story we tell ourselves.
Very common. But that becomes simply, we have lost 20% of our revenue.
Wow. That feels entirely different. Just a math problem, really.
Exactly. Once you have isolated that raw event, you must actively and mentally recite a sequence of defiant statements.
Defiant statements like
Wait,
that.
you tell yourself, I refuse to acknowledge that this is the end. I do not agree to be intimidated by this data. I resist the temptation to declare this a failure. The interpretation of this event is entirely up to me.
Okay, wait. I refuse to acknowledge that this is the end.
Yes.
I do not agree to be intimidated. That is so powerful to actually say out loud.
It really is. And here's exactly why that works. It is not magic, and it's definitely not just positive affirmations.
Right. It's not just manifesting good vibes.
No, by explicitly stating these things, either mentally or out loud, you're actually forcing your brain to process language.
Oh, interesting.
You are forcing the language centers and the logical reasoning centers of your prefrontal cortex to fire up.
And what happens when they fire up?
When those circuits fire, they actively dampen the emotional panic center of the brain, the amygdala.
So the biology is actually working for you now.
Exactly. You are literally using words as a neurobiological brake pedal on your own fight-or-flight response.
A brake pedal. That is incredible.
By doing this, you shake off the paralysis in real time. It prevents the stress from just settling into your psyche, which allows you to stare ahead and focus entirely on the countermove we talked about.
That entire strategy, that profound shift from being a victim to having absolute agency, it reminds me of this standout line from Shakespeare's Hamlet.
Oh, I know the what.
It perfectly anchors everything we've been talking about today. And I want to deliver this slowly, just for maximum impact.
Go ahead.
Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so.
It is so incredibly true. Thinking makes it so.
It really does. Our external circumstances are going to constantly shift. The economy will fluctuate, competitors are going to attack, and the ground beneath our feet might frequently feel incredibly unstable.
It's guaranteed to happen.
But the core lesson here is that as long as we maintain a relentless grip on our own perception, as long as we control our thinking and our narrative, we are never, ever powerless.
Never. And as you step into the rest of your week, I strongly encourage you to carry that absolute authority with you.
Absolutely.
Step into your life and your challenges completely collected, serious, and ready. Be fully, brutally prepared for the reality of your situations, whatever they may be.
Face the facts.
Right. But make the conscious decision today to absolutely refuse to be frightened away by phantom
The
obstacles.
ones we invent in our heads.
Exactly. Do not let the unwritten catastrophic story in your own mind defeat you before you even begin the work of solving the actual problem.
Because you are the ultimate author of your reality.
You really are.
And before you go today, I want to leave you with one final kind of provocative thought to mull over.
I love these.
If we accept that every massive obstacle is actually just an opportunity to train, to stress test your systems, and to grow stronger,
Right.
what does it mean if your life currently has no major obstacles?
Oh, wow.
Right. If everything is easy right now, are you actually aiming high enough?
That is a great question to ask yourself.
It's definitely something to think about the next time a problem drops into your lap.
For sure.
Well, if you found value in this deep dive, please make sure to drop a like and subscribe to the show on your favorite platform so you get notified about the next episode in this series.
We have so much more ground to cover together.
We really do. Until then, keep defining your own story.